Hi, everyone, and welcome to the latest round of Fearless Backgammon. We have our new match, okay, which is quite an exciting match as usual, but especially this one, just some amazing turnarounds and edge of the seat stuff. The first game is, first couple games maybe are not as exciting or full of drama as the later ones, but still always something to learn, right? And in this particular game, we're going to see a couple interesting decisions in terms of, what happens when you have semi-escaped your back checkers, right? Both of them are kind of in the outfield, and then what do you do? How do you get them home, right? And so this is kind of an interesting moment to look at. But without further ado, let's have a look, and yeah, hope you can learn something. Thanks. Okay, here we go. So, white rolls 4-1, so as usual, the best play is just to bring 2 down. Okay. No need for over-aggression. You notice here, this is the very aggressive play, which you would use in a situation, gammon go situation, right? When you need to get a gammon. But here at the beginning of the game, then it's a good idea just to bring one down and split. You're doing 2 things, right? You're developing your position in 2 useful ways. Okay. Right. Black hits. Okay. One thing I noticed with some people that I play face to face mostly is they go like, oh, that they're hit this early in the game, and they consider it kind of like bad luck. But you can see there's a reason that XG doesn't actually really register this as a joke or anything like that, because the game, it's still early. There's lots happening. So generally speaking, in terms of bad luck or so-called bad luck, try to take things in stride, understand that, the game will develop, and what might seem like a bad thing might turn out to be actually fine or interesting, or you'll turn things around as a result. Oh, you got an extra checker back and you're able to use it in an interesting way. So don't go for these kind of micro disappointments, especially early in the game. It just upsets your mood. Except that you're going to get hit in backgammon, and your opponent's going to roll some decent rolls, and of course, super jokers. I mean, we're not talking that, right? Okay, so psychologically, just be aware of how you're reacting to rolls, and don't let these kinds of things get you down. It's just a big part of backgammon. And how many people have won a game after hitting 6-2 and without any drama, without any chance of the opponent turning around? Very few. Okay, so just take it in stride. Yeah. Okay, so 6-2 hit. And white comes in, and now this is an interesting decision, right? Because there are 3 sort of candidate moves here. White opts to jump out into the outfield a little deeper onto the 16 point, right? But XG likes just going to the 18 point. I suppose the reason why I played to the 16 instead of the 18 is that black has good 6s now, right? To hit and potentially to double hit. There are fewer double hits from here. But on the other hand, this relates to the principle of connectivity, right? It's the idea that your checkers are generally connected. Now, notice after this, when white plays to the 16 point, the distance, right, between this checker and these checkers is a little greater, and they're not really directly connected. So this is something to look out for. It's not an ironclad principle, but it's good to have your checkers connected, because obviously they can hit back if one of them gets hit, or they can sort of anchor up or make a point more easily, right? In that case. So in this case, I suppose XG says, hey, it's early. You might as well just play to the 18 point. And if you get hit, it's no big deal, right? But it also gives you more chances to hit back or to anchor on the 18. So a small mistake at the beginning of the game here for white. Okay. So black rolls 6-2 again, and yeah, quite comfortable, right? Jumps out to the 16. Now, this is nice, but do keep in mind that black's position is not all that flexible as a result, and it's not going to be so easy to bring these two checkers around, right? So it's sure, black has the advantage, but there's so much play still. Okay, white rolls 6-2 and jumps out into the outfield as well. Okay, just to exercise some control there, establish a presence. Now, this is an interesting moment. Okay, so black is ahead in the race, and so there's a general principle, right? When you're ahead in the race, you race. Okay, but keep in mind that it's still very early, and black's racing lead isn't huge, and now black is leaving a blot. Okay, so there's no way that black can avoid leaving a blot. So black probably figured, okay, I might as well just run and safety a checker. But his position again is rather inflexible from this position after running, and he leaves a blot. Of course, he's got to leave a blot. But notice XG's recommendation, which is very interesting here, is just slotting the 5-point. Okay, and the rationale is, it's still early. Both home boards are not developed, so instead of just simply running and kind of landing in a fairly inflexible position, let's try to slot a point. Let's try to make that 5-point. If white hits, it's fine, it's not a disaster. But if white doesn't hit, then yeah, you have a chance to make the 5-point. And what's also good is black maintains the 16-point, right? And so it makes it a little uncomfortable for these checkers, right? So there's still a fight for the outfield, I should say, by black. So this is an interesting moment. It's something to keep in mind. Of course, the principle of running when you're ahead is a good one, but in backgammon, principles are useful, but every situation's different, and sometimes it applies and sometimes it doesn't. Okay. The other consideration, of course, and I was recently watching a video by Dirk Scheeman. He was playing, and he mentioned, and this is an equally good principle, right? It's when you have a stacked point, then look to unstack. If you don't have a really good move to make, you got to leave a blot, then look to unstack a heavy point. Okay, because that will give you more flexibility, and if it gets hit, it gets recycled, and you have more play, so to speak. So that's also a principle to keep in mind that might override the run when you're ahead principle. Okay. So yeah, black decides to run, and it's a hefty mistake, right? It's basically almost a blunder. Yeah. So keep that in mind, right? That especially when your opponent doesn't have a strong home board or an undeveloped home board, slotting a point makes sense here. Yeah. Okay. So 4-1, white is able to hit. Okay, and with the 1, white could simply play safely, of course, right? There seems to be no problem with that, but it's natural, of course, this early in the game that you don't have to worry too much about safety. And white decides to give, to give his back checker a good 6, and that connects with that idea of connectivity again, right? Okay, so by putting the checker here, then you're 6 away, so the checkers are better connected. Of course, it's not as safe, but safety is not a prime consideration. That being said, it is interesting, right, that playing safely is perfectly fine according to XG here. Okay. So yeah, black enters, and This is interesting. So certainly slotting is sort of an advanced move here, but one of the problems with slotting here is notice that white has a lot of numbers. Okay, a lot of good numbers after the slot, because obviously we have the we have the 4, we have the 3, we have the 1, but now 2s are quite decent. Okay, so watch out for this, where you play a move that gives your opponent even more better numbers and even more double hits and things like that. Okay, so that's the reason why this is quite a big blunder. Yeah. It just gives white a free hand and lots of good numbers for attacking, and black could be in trouble if the attack comes off successfully. Yeah. Instead, XG suggests the hit, right? So playing on the 24 point and hitting loose. Okay. It's partly just the kind of an initiative point, taking away that full roll from white. And if white hits back, it's not an issue. Black might be able to anchor up, right? As a result, having that second checker sent back is, in a way, a bit of safety. Okay, but yeah, it also has to do with a little bit of flexibility. Imagine, it's not a bad move, but look at this one, right? The second best move. Not very flexible, right? Does preserve some of the racing lead, but I'm not sure how you're going to be able to avoid giving another shot or something like that. So this is a good chance just to hit and see what happens. And white could enter poorly, and obviously it prevents white from making some extra points, right? Using these checkers to make points, high points especially. Okay. So black takes the risk, and white misses. White misses, but the race is all of a sudden turned around. Okay. With a big double 6 like this, white now has the racing lead, so white plays safely and just guarantees, that there's no hit, so that the racing lead evaporates. Okay. So after the double 6, white is 14 pips ahead. So quite a good roll, but there's still work to do, right? Okay, 6-1. Yep, making the 5 point. Yeah. And this is interesting because I know some players maybe at the high beginner intermediate level might be running, right? It seems like it's safe, and also the race is not that out of reach, right? Black will be 7 pips down after this. But no, it's the wrong strategy, right? When you're behind in the race, you should hang back, especially since white has these extra checkers here, right? So safety isn't really an issue right now. They're the blots, okay? So yeah, just to double check that you don't fall into that same mistake of just running for safety when you're behind in the race, even though it might seem like you're not that far behind, but it could easily transform into something that's out of reach, and then white will simply double, right? And then difficult. So staying back is right. Good. Okay, one of the blots is covered by white. Okay, black strengthens his home board. Yeah, not a big difference here. XG prefers this, which gives white a little more flexibility, right, by keeping a spare checker on the 8 point. Okay, and it allows for playing a 6 if the 6 is uncomfortable, that kind of thing, right? Without breaking the 8 point. So slightly better, but not a big difference. All right. Okay. So that's white's chosen move. Okay. But black rolls double 5, and all of a sudden the race is close again. Okay. But yeah, definitely running. Not a big difference between the two moves. So yeah, it's getting closer and closer to a straight race, but white does have some contact here, right? With this point here, so it's not a straightforward race quite yet. Okay, white rolls 5-4, and it might seem that you want to keep your midpoint, right? Because it's not so easy to clear these 2 points, right? You're missing this landing point if you roll something like 5-3 or 6-3, okay? But white's running out of time, and he needs some extra checkers to play with. So he really needs to bring couple down. So let's look at the alternatives according to XG, right? So this is one of the alternatives, and it's not really a mistake. It's very close, okay? But this one a little more, okay? But one of the issues with these plays is they kind of hurt your racing chances, okay? By dumping checkers low in your board, it's kind of like wasted moves, right? Like this move doesn't waste any pips, right? They're on their way into the home board in an efficient manner, but dumping checkers either to the 2 point or the 1 point does give white some wastage while he still has these checkers out here, right? That need to move. So that's a kind of a principle that you have to be careful about. Of course, sometimes you have to dump checkers. It's just too dangerous otherwise. But definitely white has the option here just to break his midpoint and efficiently use the pips for the race, because the race is close. Yeah, so that's the rationale for this move. Okay, black rolls 4-3. 2 options: bring 2 in or bring 1 to the 6 point. Not a big difference. Okay, 3-1. Let's fill in that gap on the 5 point. 3-2. Okay, not a lot going on here. Not a big difference between the moves. 6-3. There's that 6-3. But the race is close, so it's not necessarily in white's interest to just go with a clean race, right? It's hard to say, but in any case, here white should consider that he's running out of 6s, so he has to be a little careful. And for this reason, it is okay to put some checkers down below, right? Okay. And notice that sometimes some players they're a bit wary of leaving 2 blots in their home board like this. But what you should ask yourself is, how likely is it that your opponent will leave a shot in the next turn? And if it looks pretty unlikely, then slotting even with 2 checkers is fine, right? Because you can then make points and prepare for when he might have to leave a shot, and you'll have an even stronger home board. Okay, so keep that in mind, right? Ask yourself, how likely is it that my opponent will leave a shot next turn? And then slotting in your home board should be okay. Okay, black rolls 4-3. Now, this is interesting, right? This is kind of the same principle that black makes a stronger home board, which in principle is okay, but the race is so close. And these are a bit kind of wasted pips, right? Because these checkers, they've got a long way to go, right? And if white is somehow able to clear this point with 6-5 or something like that, then these there are several crossovers to get into the home board, right? And then the 2-point is not so useful. All right. If of course, there might be a situation where white has to leave a shot, but there's no guarantee. And with a close race, you do have to be careful. Okay, so there are situations where you have to. Okay, but in this particular situation, black has a perfectly fine move of just efficiently putting a checker on the 6-point, and he's still got right 2 6s to play here, so there's not really too much danger quite yet. Yeah. Okay. So consider a close race. Try not to bury checkers or use the pips inefficiently if you have an alternative, a decent alternative like black has here. Right. Okay. And white rolls 6-1 and makes a point. Okay. Not a big difference in the moves here. 5-3. Okay. Yep, that's reasonable. Just coming in. And there we are. There's the 6-5. Okay. So all of a sudden, black is behind in crossovers, right? So white has 3 crossovers to get all of his checkers in. And black, after this roll, has, right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, double the number of crossovers because of the way that he played the 4-3 earlier. So it would have been a different situation, right, if he played it efficiently. And now he's behind, right, fairly substantially. Okay, yeah, white is at 66% because of the efficient racing lead. And notice, of course, this is a very good roll, 6-5, but it's not a huge advantage, but the crossovers make a big difference. And so 3-2, not a great roll. Now this is interesting. White misses a double. Okay, it's not a huge double because the racing lead is not huge. Normally, you see according to the pip count, white is 6 pips up, like has an advantage of 6 pips, which generally would make this the potentially, a no double in a normal kind of race, or very close to a double, like quite marginal as it is here. But with the crossovers, that makes a big difference as well. Okay, so it's worthwhile doubling this for white, even though it's a close one. And black has an easy take, but as you can see, white rolls a double 6, and white has lost his market. It's a close one, but it's unfortunate. White could have come away with 2 points here instead of 1. You've got to milk your advantages, right? When you have make hay when the sun shines. So when you have a decent position, a decent racing lead, even if it's marginal, send the cube. Yeah, don't be afraid. So white misses a small cube here, and perhaps if white had paid attention to how black played his checkers and buried some checkers unnecessarily, he would have really realized that it's not just the pip count here, that the crossovers also make a difference. Okay. So black rolls 5-5, which seems to put him back in the game, right? But white still has a double path. White has a checker off, and white is 10 pips up, with sort of an adjusted pip count. It's slightly fewer pips, but still it's enough that black has to pass even after double 5. The 6-6 did make the difference. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, double and black passes here. As you can see, it's a fairly huge pass. Okay. just too many pips. 10 when there's only 10 pips ahead when there's only 52 pips left in the race for white. That's too much. Okay. So, kind of a quick little game, but hopefully there was some interesting learning points here, and we'll see. There's going to be quite a struggle ahead, but white grabs the early lead with 1 point here. Okay, so thanks very much, and look out for game 2 in the next week or so.